Ed Marshall Islands. This one's for Julian Poirier. A neutron with a missing tooth, wave pilot, wave poet, homo sacer of the nuclear era, left arm in a sling, right hand teaching magic tricks to children. Yeah, beginning with the ongoing thermonuclear reaction, continuity starts along with all the contingent pocketing of the paper transfer as one notices cloud formations catching the bus. Thoughts you not quite keep your eyes peeled for, more landmarks you know but not quite for sure. Helium fusion in red giants gives way to the difficult expression of all decay. Orange double peppermint paper slumped against the free-for-all wall, quoting Ed Marshall, to a world that doesn't care, except in neat handmade booklets, you sent quick across the bay. Never to be seen, one stays green, beckons rain and right alive. Tense distillated an atmosphere, along with whatever actinides ride through my veins at any given time. I feel very pleased now, 5 minutes later. The whole system is washed both ways. Yeah, beginning with the ongoing, for saying nonsense to you, is pointing out landmarks. There's the tree. Sally saw an owl in, I think. Replace the broken hand, put the sun in the mouth. Both of these tastes, some of many, begin out of the word, a form, pleased to be, a country, a red giant, a baby. The next one is quite long. It's called Leave on Helm. A sunlight glints the head seas, a correspondent breeze. In the spittle and maw of the outside world it wards away from in order to form and curls off below, nascent again at passing by sites of its earlier lives. Listening hard and keen at all wrongnesses, never in slumber but always in incidence, evokes medium drive, starfish souvenir conjuring Florida's tall keys with the weight things gifted obtain, on looking back, a certain heft, hard throwing away, precipice, books, anything lifted or on loan from the libraries of friends and the voice drum the inside the head is, heavy accumulation of definite articles, spring and ill, seen ill said beside my life and happily, all weed, small city garden, Hortulan ataraxy of salvia and sage, by the window a row of brightly different colored nail polishes. I wonder will a sunlight the head sees sound or seem farther washed or far off, hazy as the coast of New York across the wide summer glare of Lake Champlain, green Vermont black flies and steam. When I reread Know How On or Writing as an Aid to Memory someday, next summer, the next, ghosts. It's been spring now, off and on a while, though in California the characters of the seasons seem more muted, core following the faintness of a lute through dry parking lots, stained with old oil. In my head dance the inhabitants of a mysterious palace, pilgrims, messengers, panting on perhaps toward transfiguration, as Malone, old sleuth, dying tells stories, lies flat on his back, like one of Chaucer's ones, unaccompanied now, however, likewise unable to shut up. Lone pilgrim, going nowhere, delivering nothing, stripped of the cantor, but not quite buried yet either, still keeps time and sings. Death chants, waltzes, hammers and circles, familiar standards by flickering light. Metal and country, so fuck y'all. Ah, the old nightmare, reprise sepulchral perfection, e.g. whichever way I fly, I myself am, etc. All the old Lear lines behind tears of rage, surface tension, draws as majesties cease, a gulf that draws me also nigh, but I wanted to breathe it all in. Early April air with its undertones of frost and roots, pale pink, late afternoons reading again, even as, with small words, a girl next door plays a game with her friends, cheering and yelling around a neighboring small city garden. A fire truck's siren races by, loudly bending a bent note. The only option today is everything. A garden full of plants, only whose names I know some of, to weed. And although this observation impedes function in Stevens's description without place, although I'm compelled to interrupt our conversation despite not having seen one another in so long and having so much to say, to Google elongated skull painting, still this very moment I am capable of just a little bit focused attention, a modicum of capacity, concentration long enough to listen close, in the wake of a motor racing, waiting to find, I have to tell you, initial hum or rhythm, some reliable rotation whatever so-called sense might steadily arrange itself against. It gets me levitated, aloft in some other world. A hummingbird in a canyon, gone in sections, misshapen in the head, and at sunset a Joshua tree, wrong at all incidents. Very far away now in the drummer's head as he sings. Pain, reliable through line. What other song is there? It's repetition the head, anchor, wheel, spiral. It's easy on Rose Apple Island. You just trying to get to silence out of thin air, since that's simpler than total noise. At least as long as one keeps breathing. If you're really listening, a little bit of noise is all there ever is. Silver Moon cigar box, taped to the top of the snare, my mind already elsewhere. Enfranchised, at large, bold and unlit, a remnant of the afternoon's shape taking on the character of flesh, before being hauled back beneath bladed starlight, raw teenage disturbance, a genre. The Western fear again is in Lear of nothing, black engineer's boots, switchblades, greased DAs, Rand's Nietzsche, rather than Gaddis's say, a hideous misreading, the result of which this polluted world and its apparent doxa, deal, or way is. Although he who wished to write and ring out play, whose reveries then became the deepness of the pool, remains political, apolitical, tender teenage trash. Pretty flowering weed in spring. I also like time travel. I also like wailing on the traps with no invocation. Alongside these ghosts whose senses guide me, tidal as a third eye, conniving with sublunary sets, in situ dragging earth's seas. To teach them to sing Amazing Grace, shape note style, he sat bolt upright in his coffin. To be handed, or same thing, awaken abruptly from it. Since everything at least is a double. Indra's net as a means of continually making it. None of us ever thought to write a song about all the shit that was going on back then. War, civil war, revolution, turmoil. Our songs were trying to take you somewhere else. I have mines in my head. An amused oarsman, the moon, a glimmering cluster as it separates, and reforms around the dripping blade of the oar, clustered and separating important absent ideas, rippling, starting to form a reflection. To get to the point is precisely the danger. E.g., do away with the lead singer. No such thing as sidemen either. Yes, an internal echo of the imperfect sound, tough with naughty glissandos and clipped bits of lifted live speech now gone. One obvious emblem, the hummingbird I saw first thing on opening the door this morning, patiently operating through the apparent springtime, through the dependent deal of bougainvillea, lavender and sage, through weeds, honeying neatly from each, and turning words clusters, specific in species, tending toward unseen suns, reaching so as to reproduce via pollination poets that keep time and sing. So sing if you can all of the numerous, each one circulating, curling like that wake between landmarks, white and seen far off in the bay. Proof something's moving. That's the courtship. That's the approach. A foggy spring of weeds itself, cool and wet, as the underside of a pile of clouds moving. Pretty gray anvil makes of the head a marine layer, seeming in some greater seeming, set in nothing. A buzz inside this rusted globe, which then the sea becomes. That then the turning wake is in. A box the wind blows by the mind. The container ship out there, where Holbein's ambassadors reappear in all their goofy grandeur, silly worldly wealth, heavy load beneath which a horrible death's head in artful elongation and distortion gruesomely yawns. Amid which is this crazed dying storyteller, this pilgrim going nowhere, delivering nothing, this boy who, hearing owls hoot, hoots back in wild mimic rhyme, this wild Arkansas farm kid, the drummer who sings, and then so quiet in reverence at the echoing from tall cliffs, memory and theft, and whose living eye, tender as an embryo, attends the whiteness of the wake and attendant waves, the mind, piloting and piloted in by the mess, illustrious, nothing names, a wave or wake as it turns in on itself, emptiness in a technical sense, You hear it so clear in Rick's voice, doing, "It makes no difference. There's no escaping this life with its owls, rattlesnakes, nectarines, and kids, heartbreak, red wine, and malady. The early way, the sun slants in on the bed like an ancient tongue. Mornings. No alternative to the next moment. A negative connection and razors sweet as jasmine. Non-duality is why it makes sense to address the poem's readers as travelers or lovers. Why my mind, weeding abandoned, operates still through this open book, whose paragraphs are packed with the names of people and places. Sonny Burgess and the Pacers, Alberta, Duck Dunn and Lulu Reed, Roy Orbison, Memphis, Garth, Beethoven, and U.S. Grant. The redness of these cherries has a particular dark red taste as I spit the pits back into the almost empty bowl. It's true, proper names are often used, as the philosophers say, without a fixed meaning, except in the case you're looking directly at what you name. Thought, too, elongates as it picks up speed toward its unknowable vanishing points. As spit inches toward a drain or light to a black hole, thought lengthens, seems to slide slowly then suddenly sidelong toward margin, cusp, name. What this bit chipped off in brilliance whizzes toward, stands still or pivots on its almost invisible wings. I'd thought to send you a letter. It became a coruscating dance held minutely through the not quite material world of nectar and all the other aromatic, colorful stuff whose signature is disappearing everywhere. That's Levon Helm. And then I'll read one last real short one. The presentation of self in everyday life. To choose not to, pick up the phone and scroll anyway through dear old dreary daylit world, dull repetition of daily news, look up instead to see a world newly cathected, autochthonous in clouds and ones and threes, all flux then only as head. One sings to oneself and dreams, admiring the birds, pigeons, a huge flock of them, a light and wheel, shoulder height gliding through startled city humans, already dazed by afternoon light, binary, octal, and hexadecimal numbers, the humor of being reincarnated a llama, then identified as such by selecting the attachments of a previous ego. One sings to oneself momentarily in words, decisive, dilatory flight, concrete through concrete canyons, left like the lice on Basho's robe. Your next episode playing in 16 seconds. Thanks, Evan.